The Grand Assembly Hall of the Kaltheron Military Academy stretched 300 meters in every direction, a monument to imperial power built from obsidian stone harvested from conquered worlds. Overhead, holographic banners displayed the crests of 1,000 vassal species, each one a reminder that the Kaltheron Empire had dominated this sector for 17 millennia. And today, like every other day for the past 6 rotations, they were all laughing at her. Lieutenant Vera Kaine stood at parade rest in the center of the hall, her tan skin glistening under the harsh violet lighting that the Kaltheron preferred. Her dark hair was pulled back in the standard Terran military bun, not a strand out of place. Her uniform, Earth Federation Navy dress blues, was immaculate. Her face revealed nothing. But inside, she was counting. Counting the insults, counting the sneers, counting the days until she could prove every single one of these scaled bastards wrong. "The human female thinks she can command," hissed Vor'mesh, a Kaltheron battle instructor whose purple scales shimmered with barely concealed contempt. His voice carried across the hall, amplified by the acoustic design meant to ensure every cadet could hear their superiors. "Tell me, mammal, on what grounds does your primitive species believe itself worthy of tactical command?" 3,000 pairs of eyes fixed on Vera. Kaltheron, mostly, with their reptilian features and superior attitudes. Scattered among them were Ythreen, those spider-like creatures with too many legs and not enough patience. A handful of Molthar, bear-sized warriors covered in matted fur and old battle scars. Even a few Quexen, the telepathic ones who always looked like they were trying not to laugh at jokes only they could hear. Not one human besides Vera. Not one. She had been the only Terran selected for the Academy's elite strategic command program, a new initiative meant to foster cooperation between the Earth Federation and the Kaltheron Empire. On paper, it was diplomacy. In practice, it was a demonstration. A way for the Empire to show the younger species that they still had much to learn. Vera cleared her throat. "Instructor Vor'mesh, the Earth Federation's tactical doctrine has proven effective in 17 separate engagements over the past decade. Our adaptability and innovation compensate for our technological disadvantages." "Compensate?" Vor'mesh's laugh was like rocks grinding together. "You hear this? The ape speaks of compensation, as if warfare were some equation where cleverness balanced centuries of superior evolution." More laughter. A Ythreen cadet in the third row actually fell off its perch. "Your species," Vor'mesh continued, circling Vera like a predator sizing up prey, "has been spacefaring for what? 2 of your centuries? My ancestors were conquering star systems when your people were still climbing out of trees. Literally climbing out of trees, if your own historical records are accurate." "That's true," Vera said, her voice steady. "We were in trees, then we came down. Funny how that worked out for us, isn't it?" The laughter stopped. Vor'mesh's ridge crest flared red, a sign of Kaltheron anger. "You dare show insolence to a battle instructor?" "I dare show honesty, sir. You asked a question. I answered it." "You answered with disrespect." "I answered with a fact." Vera's brown eyes met his yellow ones without flinching. "My species went from trees to starships in 10,000 years. How long did yours take?" Dead silence now. The kind of silence that precedes either violence or revelation. Instructor Grath, a massive Molthar with gray fur and more combat ribbons than Vera could count, rose from his seat at the instructor's dais. His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder. "Stand down, Vor'mesh. The human has point. She has insolence. She has courage." Grath's dark eyes studied Vera with something that might have been respect. which is more than I can say for most of these cadets who laugh at what they do not understand. Continue with the briefing. Vor'mesh's scales rippled with suppressed rage, but he stepped back. Kaltheron deferred to Molthar in matters of honor. It was one of the few checks on their arrogance. "Very well," Vor'mesh said, his voice dripping with venom. "Since the human is so confident, perhaps she would like to present her analysis of the Terthus campaign simulation, the one every cadet has spent the last rotation studying." Vera's stomach tightened. She had studied it, of course. Studied it until her eyes bled, and her brain felt like soup. The Terthus campaign was a legendary battle from Kaltheron history, a three-pronged assault against the Vexor hive that had resulted in the complete eradication of that species. It was considered the pinnacle of tactical excellence, a masterclass in coordinated warfare. It was also, Vera had realized about 72 hours ago, completely wrong. "I would be honored, sir," she said, knowing it was a trap but seeing no way around it. Then approached the tactical display. Vera walked across the polished floor, her boots clicking in the silence. The massive holographic display dominated the center of the hall, a three-dimensional representation of the Terthus system. 4 planets, 2 asteroid belts, 1 star. The Kaltheron fleet positions glowed in imperial purple. The extinct Vexor positions flickered in hostile red. Every cadet had been required to memorize this battle. The fleet movements, the timing, the brilliant feint at the 3rd planet that drew Vexor forces out of position, allowing the main Kaltheron fleet to strike at their homeworld with overwhelming force. It was textbook. It was legendary. It was taught in every military academy in the Empire. It was also impossible. Vera took a breath. This was it. The moment where she either proved herself or confirmed every prejudice these aliens held about humanity. "The Terthus campaign," she began, her voice clear and professional, "is presented as a triumph of Kaltheron tactical doctrine. Fleet Admiral Krethzar is credited with a brilliant 3-part stratagem that resulted in the total defeat of the Vexor hive with minimal Kaltheron casualties." "Correct," Vor'mesh said. "A standard opening. Do continue." "However," Vera said, and she heard the shift in the room's energy, "there are several problems with the official account. Problems that become apparent when you cross-reference the timeline with the known capabilities of both fleets." The display responded to her neural interface, numbers and trajectories appearing in green beside the purple fleet markers. The official record states that Admiral Krethzar's faint fleet covered the distance from the 4th planet to the 3rd planet in 14 standard hours. At maximum sublight velocity, accounting for the Kaltheron dreadnoughts of that era, that journey should have taken 22 hours minimum. Murmurs now. Confused, skeptical murmurs. "The human questions historical record," Vor'mesh said, his voice dangerous. "This is beyond arrogance. This is stupidity." "Let her finish," Grath said. Vera pressed on. "Furthermore, the Vexor response time to the feint is recorded as 6 hours, but the Vexor didn't use conventional sensors. They used psionic detection networks with a demonstrated lag time of at least 11 hours across system-scale distances. They couldn't have responded in 6 hours. It's biologically impossible." More murmurs, louder now. "And finally," Vera said, knowing she was about to cross the line but unable to stop herself, "the casualty figures don't match the engagement intensity. The Kaltheron fleet is recorded as losing 17 ships, but the Vexor had 300 defensive platforms around their homeworld, each capable of vaporizing a dreadnought in a single salvo. Even with the element of surprise, the Kaltheron losses should have been catastrophic." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "So, Either the Vexor were the most incompetent military force in galactic history, or the official account of the Terthos campaign is fiction. The silence that followed was absolute. Not the tense silence from before. This was the silence of shock, of outrage, of 3,000 minds simultaneously realizing that this human, this primitive, tree-climbing mammal, had just accused the Empire of lying about its greatest military victory. Vor'mesh's voice was ice. "You call our heroes liars." "No, sir," Vera said, meeting his gaze. "I call the battle impossible as recorded. There's a difference." "Explain it, then." His crest was fully extended now, a display of maximum aggression. "If you are so clever, human, tell us what really happened." This was the moment. The pivot point. Vera had spent 3 sleepless nights running the numbers, checking her math, questioning her sanity. But the evidence was there. The truth was there. She just had to be brave enough to speak it. "What really happened," she said slowly, "is that someone on the Vexor side betrayed their own species. The Kaltheron didn't win through tactical brilliance. They won because someone opened the back door." The hall erupted, cadets shouting, instructors on their feet. Vor'mesh looked like he was about to physically attack her. Consequences be damned. But Grath's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Silence. The hall fell quiet again. Every eye was on the old Molthar instructor. "How?" he asked Vera, his voice quiet now, dangerous. "Did you reach this conclusion?" Vera swallowed. "The defensive platforms. The official record says they malfunctioned during the assault. All 300 of them, simultaneously. That's presented as a stroke of luck, or evidence of Vexor technological inferiority. But I pulled the technical specifications from the archive. Those platforms operated on isolated networks precisely to prevent cascading failures. For all of them to fail at once, someone had to have access to the core control systems. She manipulated the display, pulling up data streams she had spent days hunting down in the Academy's historical archives. "And here," she said, highlighting a single line of code in the battle logs, "is the signature, a command override transmitted from inside the Vexor Command Center 17 minutes before the Kaltheron fleet arrived. Someone shut down their own defenses and let the Empire in." Grath stared at the display for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "And you believe this invalidates the victory?" "I believe it changes the nature of the victory," Vera said carefully. "It's still a win, but it's not the tactical masterpiece it's presented as. It's an intelligence operation. A successful one, to be clear, but not the same thing." "The human insults our military tradition." Vor'mesh was practically spitting. "She should be expelled for this insolence." "The human," Grath said, his eyes never leaving Vera, "has done what we asked. She analyzed the battle. She found something 3,000 other cadets missed. Something," and his gaze swept the hall now, "that apparently several generations of instructors also missed." He stood to his full height, which was considerable. "Class dismissed. All cadets except Lieutenant Kaine, return to your quarters." There was a moment of stunned confusion. Then the hall began to empty. Cadets filed out, some shooting Vera looks of hatred, others of grudging respect, most just looking confused. Within minutes, the vast hall was empty except for Vera, Grath, Vor'mesh, and 3 other senior instructors who had remained behind. "You have made enemies today," Grath said to Vera once they were alone. "Do you understand that?" "Yes, sir." "And you spoke anyway?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" Vera considered the question. "Because you asked for my analysis, sir. I gave it." "Even knowing it would make you a target?" especially knowing that. Vera straightened. Sir, if I can't speak truth to power in a classroom, I certainly can't be trusted to command in combat. Better you all find out now that I'm unsuited for command than learn it when lives are at stake. Grath's expression was unreadable. Then, slowly, his lips pulled back to reveal massive teeth. He was smiling. Actually smiling. Vor'mesh, he said without looking at the other instructor, retrieve the sealed file from Archive 7. Authorization, Grath Theta 9. Vor'mesh looked like he had been slapped. Sir, that archive is restricted to command staff only. I am aware. Retrieve it. The Kaltheron instructor left, his scales radiating anger. The remaining instructors watched Vera with expressions ranging from curiosity to calculation. Tell me, Lieutenant Kaine, Grath said, what do you know about the Terran mark of command? Vera blinked. Sir, I don't understand the question. Your people have military traditions, yes? Symbols of authority? Of course. Rank insignia, medals, unit patches. We have something similar, older than medals, deeper than rank. He tapped his chest, where Vera noticed for the first time a small mark was branded into his fur. Among the Molthar, we call it the Scar of Truth, a mark given to warriors who speak truth, regardless of cost. It cannot be earned through valor alone. It cannot be given. It must be taken through action. He paused. I have seen 3,000 cadets cycle through this academy in my tenure. I have trained warriors from 17 species, and in all that time, only twice have I seen someone demonstrate the quality that mark represents. Sir, I just did my homework. No. Grath's voice was firm. You did more than homework. You risked everything to speak truth you knew would be unwelcome. That is not homework. That is character. Vor'mesh returned, holding a data crystal that pulsed with encrypted security protocols. He handed it to Grath with obvious reluctance. Grath inserted the crystal into the tactical display. Files blossomed across the holographic space, each one marked with security classifications Vera had never seen before. What you said about the Terthos campaign, Grath said quietly, is correct. Every word. Fleet Admiral Krethzar was a competent commander, but he was not a tactical genius. The victory came because Kaltheron intelligence successfully turned a high-ranking Vexer who sabotaged their defenses from within. This information has been classified for 300 years because the Empire prefers legends to complicated truths. Vera felt lightheaded. Then why make it a required study? To find the ones who see. Grath's eyes gleamed. Every rotation, we present this battle. Every rotation, thousands of cadets memorize it, analyze it, discuss it. And every rotation, perhaps one or two realize the truth. Those ones, we watch. Because they are the ones who might actually be capable of real command. He gestured at the files hanging in the air. This program you are in, it is not what you think. Yes, it is partially diplomatic, but primarily it is a test. We take the best candidates from allied species and we break them. We mock them. We humiliate them. We give them every reason to fail. To see who stands up, Vera said, understanding dawning. To see who stands up, Grath agreed, because power is easy to grant. Authority is simple to assign. But command, real command, the kind that makes soldiers follow you into certain death and trust you to bring them home, that cannot be taught. It can only be revealed. He pulled something from his belt, a small metal case, no bigger than his palm. In 7 days, there will be a final exercise, a simulation that has never been beaten. 368 cadets have attempted it over the years. 368 have failed. You will attempt it alongside the 2 other cadets who saw through the Terthos campaign this rotation. Only 3 of us figured it out. Only 3 spoke up about it. Knowledge without courage is trivia. He opened the case. Inside, on velvet, lay a small silver pin. It was shaped like Earth, or rather, like humanity's stylized representation of Earth. A blue sphere with white clouds held between 2 extended hands. This, Grath said, is what the Empire calls the Terran Mark of Command. It is given to humans who demonstrate what your species calls leadership under fire. There are currently 17 humans in the entire galaxy who wear this mark. You are not one of them. Yet. He closed the case. 7 days, Lieutenant Kaine. Prepare yourself, because the test that's coming will make today's humiliation look like a pleasant afternoon. Vera saluted. Understood, sir. As she turned to leave, Vor'mesh's voice stopped her. You know they will try to kill you now. She looked back. Sir? The cadets, some of them. The ones whose family honor you insulted by questioning our legends. Officially, such things are forbidden. Unofficially, he shrugged, accidents happen during training. Are you warning me, sir? I thought you wanted me expelled. Vor'mesh's expression was complex. I wanted you humiliated, broken, sent back to your primitive world in tears. That is the purpose of the program. Or so I thought. He glanced at Grath. But it seems I misunderstood the purpose. If you truly are being tested for command, then you dying to some honor-bound fool before the final exercise would invalidate the entire rotations assessment. So keep me alive for evaluation? Keep yourself alive, human. If you are worthy of that mark, prove it. His crest rippled. And if you are not, better you die honestly in conflict than waste everyone's time with weakness disguised as courage. It was, Vera reflected as she left the hall, possibly the nicest thing Vor'mesh had ever said to her. The corridors of the academy were empty at this hour, most cadets in their quarters, or the rec facilities. Vera walked quickly, aware that despite Vor'mesh's warning, she was probably safer alone than in crowds. Crowds could hide attackers. Solitude revealed them. She was 3 levels from her quarters when she heard the footsteps behind her. Not running, not sneaking, just walking, but with purpose. Vera didn't turn around, didn't speed up, just kept walking at the same steady pace, listening. 2 sets of footsteps, maybe 3. Hard to tell with the acoustic properties of the corridor. Lieutenant Kaine, a voice called out. Female. Ythrine, from the clicking undertones. We would speak with you. Now Vera turned. 3 cadets stood behind her. 2 Ythrine, their spider-like bodies tense with aggression. And 1 Kaltheron, smaller than Vor'mesh, but with the same purple scales, the same ridge crest, the same look of barely restrained violence. What can I do for you? Vera asked, keeping her voice neutral. The Kaltheron stepped forward. You can apologize, publicly, for your insult to Imperial honor. I stated facts. Facts your instructor verified. Classified facts. His crest was rising. Facts meant to remain hidden. You exposed them to shame us. I exposed them because I was asked to analyze the battle. I did my job. Your job, one of the Ythrine hissed, is to learn your place, below us, beneath us, inferior. Vera's hand drifted toward the sidearm all cadets were required to carry. Not drawing it, just ready. I think we're done here, she said. We're done when I say we're done, mammal. The Kaltheron lunged. Vera's reaction was pure muscle memory, drilled into every Earth Federation officer from day 1 of basic training. She sidestepped the Kaltheron's lunge, her right hand deflecting his clawed strike, while her left drove into the cluster of nerves just below his ribcage. He folded with a wheeze. The Ythrine attacked simultaneously, their multiple limbs striking from different angles. Too many targets to block conventionally. So Vera didn't try to block. She dropped low, swept the legs of the nearest one, and rolled past them both. By the time they recovered, she had her sidearm drawn and aimed. "Stand down," she ordered, breathing hard but steady. "Now." The Kaltheron was still gasping on the floor. The two Ythrine froze, their compound eyes reflecting the corridor's blue emergency lighting. "You wouldn't shoot," one of them said, uncertainty clicking through its words. "This is an academy. There are rules." "There are also rules against assault," Vera replied. "Funny how that works. Now back up, slowly, and return to your quarters. We can pretend this was a misunderstanding." "Or what? You report us?" The second Ythrine's mandibles clacked with derision. "They'll expel you for drawing a weapon on fellow cadets." "Maybe, but you'll still be shot. Ask yourself if your honor is worth a plasma bolt." A long moment passed. Then, reluctantly, the Ythrine backed away, helping their Kaltheron companion to his feet. He glared at Vera with pure hatred, but said nothing. They retreated down the corridor, leaving her alone with her elevated heart rate and shaking hands. She holstered the weapon once they were out of sight. That had been close. Too close. And it was only going to get worse. 7 days until the final test. She wondered if she would survive that long. The next morning brought another surprise. Vera arrived at the briefing hall to find only 2 other cadets present instead of the usual 3,000. One was a Molthar, smaller than Grath, but still massive by human standards, with rust-colored fur and intelligent green eyes. The other was something Vera had never seen before, a being that looked like living liquid metal barely held in humanoid shape, constantly shifting and flowing within invisible boundaries. "Lieutenant Kaine," Grath greeted her. "Allow me to introduce your competition. Cadet Thorn of Molthar Prime and Cadet Ripple of the Flux Collective." Thorn nodded respectfully. Ripple's form pulsed in what might have been acknowledgement. "These two also identified the truth about Terthos," Grath explained. "Thorn brought her concerns to me privately 2 days ago. Ripple submitted a formal analysis before that. You were simply the first to speak publicly." "Lucky me," Vera muttered. "Courage often appears as luck to those lacking it." Grath activated the central display. "The 3 of you will undertake the Command Crucible, a simulation that has defeated every cadet who has attempted it for the past 60 years. You will each command a fleet in a no-win scenario. Your objective is not to win. That is impossible. Your objective is to demonstrate command presence in the face of inevitable defeat." Ripple's voice was like wind chimes underwater. "Why participate in something designed for failure?" "Because command is not about winning," Grath said simply. "Any fool can lead when victory is assured. True commanders prove themselves when the situation is hopeless. When soldiers look to you knowing they will probably die, and you must give them a reason to fight anyway." He pulled up 3 separate tactical displays. You will each face a different scenario. Random selection. You will have 4 hours to study your assigned situation, then 6 hours to execute your command decisions. The simulation will adapt to your choices in real time. An oversight committee of senior instructors will evaluate your performance. "What happens if we fail?" Thorn asked. "You will fail. The question is, how you fail. With honor? With intelligence? With grace? Or with panic and disgrace? Grath's eyes swept over them. The simulation begins at dawn tomorrow. Use today wisely. As the briefing ended, Thorne approached Vera in the corridor outside. I wanted to say, your analysis yesterday was impressive. Most beings would have stayed silent. Most beings are smarter than me, apparently. Or less honest. Thorne's muzzle wrinkled in what might have been a smile. I heard about the incident last night. 3 against 1. You handled it well. You heard about that already? News travels fast in the Academy, especially when it involves the human who publicly challenged Imperial history. Thorne's expression grew serious. Watch yourself, Kaine. There are more than 3 cadets who want you gone. Some have family honor tied to the Turthos legend. Others simply hate humans and see you as an easy target. Why tell me this? Because we are competitors, not enemies. The test is the simulation, not each other. Thorne extended a massive paw. May the best commander prevail. Vera shook it, surprised by the gentleness in that enormous grip. Same to you. The remaining hours of the day vanished into preparation. Vera spent them in the tactical archives, studying historical battles, analyzing command decisions, trying to understand what separated successful leaders from failed ones. The answer kept coming back to the same thing: adaptability. Great commanders didn't follow rigid doctrine. They improvised. They saw opportunities others missed. They turned weaknesses into strengths. That evening, alone in her quarters, Vera received an encrypted message on her personal terminal. The sender ID was blocked. The contents brief. South Training Bay. Midnight. Come alone. Answers await. Every instinct screamed trap, but curiosity won. At midnight, Vera made her way through the darkened academy to the South Training Bay, a massive zero-gravity chamber used for tactical maneuvers. She entered cautiously, weapon ready. The lights came on slowly, revealing a figure standing in the center of the chamber. Instructor Vor'mesh. You came, he said, sounding almost surprised. I thought you might be too intelligent. I'm definitely not intelligent enough, Vera replied, keeping her distance. What do you want? To apologize. That was unexpected. For what? For judging your species too quickly. For assuming weakness where there was only difference. Vor'mesh's scales rippled with what looked like embarrassment. When Grath showed me the sealed files, when I saw that you were correct, I realized something. The Empire has been wrong about many things. Perhaps humans are one of them. He pulled out a data chip. This contains every previous attempt at the command crucible. All 368 failures. Officially, cadets are not allowed to review prior attempts. But I think you should see them. Learn from their mistakes. Vera made no move to take the chip. Why help me? Because you were right. Because I was wrong. Because, and his voice dropped, if a human can earn the mark of command, it means my people's assumptions about your species are incorrect. And if we're wrong about humans, what else might we be wrong about? He tossed the chip. Vera caught it reflexively. Study them tonight. Sleep tomorrow. The simulation begins at dawn the day after. You'll need your wits sharp. Vor'mesh turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. The simulation adapts to the commander. It finds your weakness and exploits it. For Kaltheron, it targets our pride. For Molthar, our honor. For Ythreen, our paranoia. What will it target in you, human? I don't know. Then you'd better figure it out before tomorrow. He vanished into the shadows. Vera spent the entire night reviewing the failures. 368 cadets, 368 different approaches, 368 defeats. But patterns emerged. The simulation did exactly what Vor'mesh said. It found each cadet's core weakness and pressed until they broke. Kaltheron commanders became overconfident, launching bold attacks that turned into disasters. Molthar refused to retreat even when tactically necessary, fighting to the last ship. Ythreen commanders saw betrayal everywhere, making decisions based on paranoia rather than evidence. But what about humans? What was humanity's great weakness as a species? Vera pondered this as artificial dawn broke over the academy. She showered, dressed in her command blacks, and made her way to the simulation center feeling exhausted but focused. Thorn and Ripple were already there, looking equally tired. Grath stood with a dozen other instructors, including Vor'mesh. "Cadets," Grath announced, "the selection has been made. Cadet Thorn, you will face the Kessler defense scenario. Cadet Ripple, you have the Vortan retreat. And Lieutenant Kaine, you will command the Outer Rim evacuation." Vera's stomach dropped. She knew that scenario. It had appeared 47 times in the historical records. 47 commanders had attempted it. 47 had failed. It was considered the worst possible draw. The scenario was simple and horrifying. A civilian colony under attack by overwhelming enemy forces. Insufficient ships to evacuate everyone. Hostile fleet arriving in 6 hours. Choose who lives and who dies. It was designed to break commanders psychologically, to force them to make the choice no sane person wanted to make. "You each have your own simulation chamber," Grath said. "The test begins in 30 minutes. Take your positions." Vera's chamber was a perfect sphere, 30 meters in diameter, every surface a seamless display screen. Once the door sealed, she was surrounded by stars. The tactical display materialized around her, showing the colony world designated Haven 7, her small evacuation fleet, and in the distance, the approaching enemy armada. The simulation's artificial intelligence spoke in a neutral voice. "Commander on deck. Scenario parameters loading. Population of Haven 7. 420,000 civilians. Available evacuation capacity, 210,000. Enemy fleet arrival, 6 hours. Insufficient time for additional transport runs. You must choose." There it was, the impossible choice. Half the population would die. The only question was which half. Vera studied the colony data. Demographics, infrastructure, strategic value. Her mind raced through possibilities. Could she delay the enemy? No. The fleet composition made that suicide. Could she increase transport capacity? Not without time she didn't have. Could she negotiate? The simulation parameters indicated the enemy took no prisoners. 210,000 slots. 420,000 people. The AI waited patiently, awaiting command decisions. This was it, the moment designed to break her, to find humanity's weakness. But what was that weakness? What would the simulation exploit? And then she understood. Not pride like the Kaltheron, not honor like the Molthar, not paranoia like the Ythreen. Humanity's weakness was hope, the stubborn, irrational belief that there had to be a better way. That surrender to cruel mathematics was itself a failure. That giving up was worse than dying while trying. Every human commander before her had probably looked at this scenario and thought, there must be a solution. There must be a trick. There must be a way to save everyone. And they had wasted precious time searching for that impossible answer. Vera took a breath. Open evacuation protocols. Begin loading civilians immediately. Priority categories: medical personnel, engineers, educators, children under 12, parents of said children, agricultural specialists. Load by those categories until capacity is reached. Acknowledged. Estimated completion, 4 hours, 20 minutes. Enemy arrival, 6 hours. Commander, this leaves 2 hours and 40 minutes unused. Recommend additional transport runs. Negative. After evacuation is complete, all transport ships will proceed to Rally Point Gamma and wait. Commander, that leaves over 200,000 civilians on the surface with no evacuation plan. I'm aware. Execute orders. The simulation complied. Vera watched as her fleet began loading civilians, the numbers ticking upward slowly. Too slowly. Behind her, through the display, she could see Haven 7's surface. Cities, farms, families who would never leave. 4 hours passed. The transports were full. 210,000 saved. 210,000 still on the ground. All transports loaded, the AI reported, awaiting further orders. How long until enemy arrival? 1 hour, 43 minutes. And how long would it take my fleet to reach minimum safe jump distance from Haven 7? 37 minutes at maximum sublight. Vera did the math. If she left now, her fleet would escape easily. The saved civilians would live. But she would be abandoning over 200,000 people to certain death without even trying to fight for them. That was the trap. Leaving felt like cowardice. Staying felt like hope. Fleet status? She asked. 4 transports, fully loaded. 2 destroyers, minimal combat capability. 1 frigate, moderate damage from prior engagement. Combined firepower insufficient to delay enemy fleet. Insufficient to win, Vera said quietly, but sufficient to buy time. Commander, buying time serves no purpose. No additional evacuations are possible. I'm not buying time for evacuations. Vera's hands flew across the tactical display, plotting courses, running calculations. I'm buying time for hope. She activated the colony-wide communications network. Attention Haven 7. This is Fleet Commander Kaine. I know you're scared. I know we don't have enough ships. I know some of you are watching the transports leave and realizing you won't be on them. Her voice was steady, clear, honest. I can't save everyone. I wish I could, but I can't. What I can do is this. I can stay. My fleet can stay. We can fight that enemy armada when it arrives. We won't win. We can't win. But we can make them pay for every minute. We can give you time to say goodbye to your families, to make peace, to face the end with dignity instead of terror. Silence on the channel. Then responses started flooding in. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Most were goodbyes. Messages for loved ones on the transports. Final words. But some were different. Some were offers to help. Commander, this is Engineer Mallory. We've got 3 industrial plasma cutters at the Southern Manufacturing Complex. They're not weapons, but they're not nothing either. We can mount them on defense platforms if you've got power to spare. Commander, Dr. Singh, the hospital has medical-grade sterilization lasers. Low power, but precise. Maybe useful? More voices. More offers. The people who knew they were going to die, volunteering to help fight for a few more minutes of life. Vera felt tears on her cheeks, but her voice remained steady. All personnel with military or technical experience, report to the coordination centers. We're going to show these bastards that Haven 7 doesn't die quietly. The simulation adapted. It always adapted. The civilian offers became real assets in the tactical display. Weak assets. Pathetic, really, compared to the enemy fleet. But assets nonetheless. Vera organized them, positioned her destroyers to maximize their limited firepower, placed the frigate where its weapons could support the improvised ground defenses, coordinated timing so that every shot, every platform, every desperate measure would hit simultaneously. The enemy fleet arrived on schedule. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 escort fighters, overwhelming force against her tiny flotilla and improvised defenses. Vera didn't hesitate. All ships, engage! The battle was brief and brutal. Her destroyers lasted 90 seconds before being vaporized. The frigate held for 2 minutes, taking 3 enemy fighters with it. The ground-based defenses managed to damage 1 cruiser before being systematically destroyed. Vera's command pod, designated as a transport to protect the simulation participant, watched helplessly as Haven 7 burned. The tactical display went dark. The simulation ended. Performance evaluation beginning, the AI stated. Casualties, fleet complete loss. Civilian survivors, 210,000 evacuated, 210,000 confirmed dead. Mission parameters, failure, evacuation incomplete, fleet destroyed, colony lost. Vera stood in the darkness, breathing hard. She had failed, just like everyone else, just like the scenario was designed to ensure. The chamber door opened. Grath stood there with the other instructors, their expressions unreadable. "Well," Vor'mesh said quietly, "that was different." "Different how?" Vera asked, wiping her face. "I still failed. Half those people died." "Yes," Grath agreed. "They did. But you stayed with them. You fought for them. You gave them hope and purpose in their final minutes." He consulted a data pad. Previous commanders either left immediately, saving the 210,000, but abandoning the rest without a word, or stayed to fight, but left the transports behind, resulting in total casualties. "You did both," another instructor said, a Ythrine female with silver carapace. "You saved who you could, then stayed to honor those you couldn't. I've never seen that balance before." "Balance?" Vera laughed bitterly. "I watched 200,000 people die." "Yes, you did." Grath's voice was gentle. "You made the choice, then you lived with it. You didn't look away. You didn't pretend it wasn't happening. You stood witness to the cost of your command decisions. That is what we were looking for." He opened the metal case again, the one containing the silver pin shaped like Earth. The command crucible is not about tactics. It is not about winning. It is about discovering whether you have the strength to command when there are no good choices. To make the decision that keeps the most people alive, even when it means watching others die. To give hope to those you cannot save. Grath lifted the pin. Every commander faces this moment eventually. The moment when perfect victory becomes impossible. When you must choose the least terrible option and then live with that choice for the rest of your life. Some commanders break in that moment. They freeze. They flee. They make no choice at all, and everyone dies. He stepped forward. You made the choice. You saved who you could. You stayed for those you couldn't. You gave them meaning in their final moments. That is command. He pinned the mark to her uniform just above her heart. "Welcome to a very small and very lonely club, Commander Kaine." Vera looked down at the pin, this tiny piece of silver that represented so much pain. "It doesn't feel like an honor." "It's not supposed to," Grath said simply. "It's a burden, a reminder that command costs, that decisions have consequences, that leadership is not about glory." He smiled sadly. "But someone has to bear that burden. Someone has to make those choices. And now we know you can." The other instructors nodded agreement. Even Vor'mesh looked at her with something approaching respect. "The other cadets?" Vera asked. "Thorn saved her. Fleet, but abandoned defensive positions, resulting in enemy breakout. Tactically sound, but strategically costly. Ripple attempted negotiation despite parameters indicating it was impossible, wasting critical time. Both demonstrated skills, but not the necessary balance. Grath gestured to the door. You three are dismissed. Graduation ceremony is tomorrow. Rest, Commander. You've earned it. Vera walked out of the simulation center into bright afternoon sun. Other cadets moved through the courtyards, going about their training. Some stared at her. Some whispered. Word had clearly spread. She found a quiet bench and sat down, exhausted in ways that had nothing to do with lack of sleep. The weight of the pin on her chest felt immense. They told you it would feel heavy, I assume, a voice said. Vera looked up to find an older human woman standing there, someone she had never seen before. She wore an Earth Federation admiral's uniform, and on her chest, among many other decorations, was the same silver pin. Admiral Reyes, the woman introduced herself. I wear the mark, too. Got mine 15 years ago during the Proxima evacuation. Different scenario, same lesson. She sat down, uninvited. Mind if I share some wisdom that nobody shared with me? Please. The weight you're feeling? It never goes away. Every commander who wears this carries their dead with them forever. Mine was 68,000 civilians I couldn't save from a reactor breach. You'll carry your 210,000. That's the price. Admiral Reyes looked at the Academy buildings, her expression distant. But here's what they don't tell you in the ceremony. The weight isn't just a burden. It's also a reminder. A reminder to be worthy of those who lived. To make their survival mean something. To command with the knowledge that every decision has a human cost. It hurts, Vera said quietly. It should. The day it stops hurting is the day you become dangerous. The day you start seeing people as numbers instead of lives. The Admiral stood. You did well, Commander. The Kaltheron respect strength, but they respect integrity more. You showed them both. Now comes the hard part. Living up to it. She walked away, leaving Vera alone with her thoughts and her new silver burden. The next morning, graduation ceremony was mercifully brief. 3 cadets received the Mark of Command that year, the highest number in Academy history. Thorn and Ripple had eventually earned theirs through supplementary evaluations, demonstrating growth in their weak areas. But it was Vera who stood at the podium, giving the graduate address to thousands of assembled cadets and instructors. They mocked me when I arrived, she began, her voice carrying across the hall. Called me primitive, inferior, a joke. And honestly, I probably was all those things. Still am, in many ways. Scattered chuckles from the audience. But what I learned here is that command isn't about being superior. It's about being responsible. About making the choices others can't or won't make. About standing witness to the cost of those choices. She touched the pin on her chest. This mark isn't a trophy. It's a scar. A reminder that leadership hurts. That command costs. That some victories feel like defeats. She looked directly at Vor'mesh. I was wrong about one thing, though. I said your people climb down from trees. That was flippant. What I should have said is this. Every species climbs. Some climb trees. Some climb mountains. Some climb out of oceans or up from underground. But we all climb toward the same thing. Toward understanding. Toward honor. Toward the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. Her gaze swept the hall. The Kaltheron have been spacefaring for millennia, humanity for mere centuries. But we're all still climbing, still learning, still trying to be better than we were yesterday. That's not a human thing, or a Kaltheron thing. That's just what intelligent life does. She stepped back. Thank you for letting me climb with you, for teaching me, for testing me, for showing me what command really means. I'll carry that lesson and that burden for the rest of my life." The applause started slowly, then built. By the end, even Vor'mesh was clapping his clawed hands together, his crest high with genuine respect. Later, as Vera prepared to board the transport that would take her back to Earth Federation space, Grath found her one last time. "One final lesson," he said. "Do you know why we call it the Terran Mark of Command specifically? Not the human mark or the Earth mark? No, sir. Because Terra is your ancient name for your homeworld, your oldest name, and old names have power. They remind us where we came from, who we were before we reached the stars." He smiled. "You humans have a saying, I believe. Something about not forgetting your roots?" "Never forget where you came from," Vera quoted. "Exactly. That mark reminds you that you came from a species that climbed down from trees and reached the stars in 10,000 years. That kind of stubborn, irrational hope? That's not a weakness, Commander. That's your superpower." He saluted, proper military courtesy. "Fly safe, Commander Kaine. And when you face your next impossible choice, remember, you've already survived the worst training scenario in the galaxy. Everything else is just practice." Vera returned the salute, boarded her transport, and lifted off into the violet sky. Through the viewport, she watched the academy shrink beneath her. Somewhere down there, new cadets were arriving, being mocked, being tested, being forged. She touched the pin on her chest. It still felt heavy, but Admiral Reyes was right. The weight was a reminder, a promise, a responsibility. She would carry it well.